They say small business is the backbone of America. So what's the best way to support a small business? It is to learn more about them and share with your family and friends. We interview founders from across the world who have started and scaled their business through the ups and downs, long hours, and the rewards that come from sacrificing their time to build their business. Welcome to First to Arrive, Last to Leave, the journey of an entrepreneur.
All right, so welcome to another episode of First to Arrive, Last to Leave. You know what? We need to introduce ourselves. I always run into it. And then I realize, I'm like, sometimes we don't even get... Anyway, I'm Erin Greger.
And I'm Courtney Radloff.
Yeah, so we are the hosts, and today we have KSB royalty. You are one of, we joke, there's some poster children from KSB. You are definitely one of them. So we have Brent Reaves here from Smoky John's Barbecue. Brent, thank you so much for joining us today.
Are you kidding me? I'm so excited to be with you guys.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Courtney in a long time. Oh my God.
Well, and it's funny too, and we were talking about this before we started recording. We got to speak at for 10K speak. Where was it at?
I like the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say the Financial Reserve. I knew I was wrong. And we're talking about hiring and the issues we were having. And I remember I walked in and Josh goes, "Do you know who that is?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh, that's Brent. He's the guy. You got to know him. He knows everybody." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then we're sitting next to each other, and you're just so kind and so genuine, and you have such a unique story. I'm really excited for everybody to hear about it. And then same thing when we started to roll up the list of who we wanted to interview. I said, "Hey, Josh, what do you think?" And you were right at the top of the list. I was like, "Well, that's obvious."
Y'all are so sweet. I don't even know what to say. I'm just so honored to be here. You guys have and you have an amazing set, might I add.
Thank you.
It's a good job, Erin.
Thank you. You got to have a chair. I know. We're going to take a nap.
Oh my goodness.
In the comfy chairs. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I want to just watch you guys, and I want popcorn.
We could get you popcorn. I need to start asking for a list of what do you need? Green M&Ms? What's your thing here?
This is super
Does that become a thing? We'll have to see. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Brett, so usually we'd say, tell us about your business, but I don't know how you want to approach this because you have quite a story.
Yeah.
And just with growing and the obstacles you've overcome, because usually we ask about obstacles. So I don't know how you want to approach it of just talking about your business first, but I know we're going to want to get deep into what you've all had to overcome to get where you are. So I'll leave it up to you of how much you want to tell now, and then we can get into it. Or if you want to share the whole story right off, we'll jump in and talk about it from there too.
I'm very curious. This is always something that comes up when we talk to people, the why, the how.
Yeah.
Because a restaurant is no easy feat.
No. That's probably the worst business you could ever be in.
I think it kind of when people recommend businesses to get into, I think restaurants are the low part. Yeah.
Right. I think they said the most stressful job these you can ever have is restaurant manager. I think number 2 is air traffic controller.
Oh.
So restaurants worse than guiding an airplane.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
That's absolutely horrible. My dad always would, he would say, so he's he was in real estate. So he made a lot of money in real estate, did really well. And then he lost a lot of money in real estate as well, too. But he liked restaurant business because you saw money every day at least. Even if you lost it, you at least saw it.
Yeah.
You at least get to touch it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, restaurant business is like turning pennies into dollars, and real estate is dollar for dollar. And he's like, that penny for dollar is a nightmare, because you have so many opportunities to lose that penny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough business. And I've been doing it for a long time. So I actually started in the restaurant business at 6 years old. My dad would, have me go with him to work. And he was just I think he was giving my mom a break because I just was a headache. I was a hassle. I was always into some stuff. My nickname as a kid was Trouble.
Oh.
So,
well,
yeah, So I would go with him to the restaurant, and he had a Pac-Man game, and it was really cool. So I would ask him for quarters to play Pac-Man. He's like, "Okay, come on." So then I'd get over there and I'd lose the quarters in about a minute and a half. Done. So I'd get, Dad, I need some more quarters. Okay. And like about the third time, he's like, wait a minute. Go get a pitcher of ice water and a pitcher of iced tea. It's like all the glasses that are at the customers' tables, if they get halfway full, fill them up. I was like, okay, cool. So I did that. And then like the people left, and then like there were like $2 or $3 on the table. So I ran, took the money back to him. I was like, Dad, that people, they left their money. They left their money. And he was like, no, son, this is what you call a tip. He's like, when you provide service, people will give you additional dollars for that service. And that's how I got hooked in the restaurant business. So for any time I would come, I would grab pictures and I would make my own Pac-Man money. And so that's how I got hooked in the restaurant business.
So what was your dad's reasoning for, like you said, he got into real estate. He started Smoky John. What was his reason for getting in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, so he was he had his mortgage banking business. He had that, as well as a roofing company, construction company.
Wow.
So when he would close deals or close like a roofing job, to thank you, he would smoke a turkey or a ham and give it to you just to say thank you. And so that's how he got started. He was just smoking in his backyard. And so then all of a sudden he started getting all of these calls for hams and turkeys and not as many for roofing, And he was like, my goodness. And so at one time, a friend of his came over to the house and he had 100 turkeys around the house, like thawing out because he had to cook these for customers. And the guy was like, dude, you need a restaurant. Like, this is ridiculous. So he was like, okay, well, all right. So the owner of the mortgage company actually loaned him $150,000 to open his restaurant. So he was like, he thought of my dad as like a son.
Wow.
And so Dad took that $150,000, opened up a restaurant. I think Dad may have paid him $10,000 back, and then after that, he was like, you know what, just keep it.
Wow.
You don't need to. He's like, I love what you're doing. I love what you're about. Just keep doing what you're doing. And so he never had to pay him that loan back. But that's how he got started in the restaurant business.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then you're doing tip money for Pac-Man money. At what point were you like where it shifted from even I'm just going to help out on the family business,
right,
to where you knew it was going to become your career too?
So I wasn't sure. So so from there later on, he really made me start learning. So 13 years old, on the summers, I would wash dishes, bus tables, like I did the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I did that for 3 years, 3 summers. And then he started teaching me catering business. And so I was about 16, 17. By the age of 17, my senior year in high school, I was doing events for 200, 250 people by myself, like learning how to put them together. And so then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just do this in school. I was like, is this a job? And so I found out that there was like this hotel restaurant management. I was like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool to do. So went to UNT, started doing that. And I was like, well, I wasn't a big fan of school. So I was just like, well, I know I can do this. I've been around this a long time. Maybe I can, I'll just fall back on this. So actually, I really enjoyed it. I was at UNT. I had a great time. Probably too much fun. Wasn't really in a hurry to graduate because it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
So I get a phone call from I spoke a little Spanish. So I worked at Outback Steakhouse, and I think one of the vice presidents from Telcom came there. And so he heard me say something in Spanish. So we started talking back and forth. And he was like, I want to hire you. So I actually was thinking about going towards that industry. And they were going to have a job opening in Brazil. So I was like thinking about that. So my brother calls out the blue. He's like, hey, I think I'm going to leave New York and come back and work at the family business. And I was like, what? Are you serious? I was like, oh, dude, we work together. That's going to be fun. So I decided to go ahead and graduate. And I was like, well, and that's what brought me to the restaurant, because he called and said he was going to do it. So I said, hey, let's do this together and see what happens. And so that's how I graduated. Came to Dallas, jumped in the family business.
Now, so how long has it been now?
Oh my God, Courtney, why would you say that to me?
Sorry. Okay, like, well, I mean, because
right, that's a while ago.
That was 2 years ago.
Right.
Okay, well,
Right. So this year in December, I will be doing this for 23 years.
Wow.
23 years. So that it's really fun to hear, because we started when we came back. When I came back and we joined the family business, of course, anybody who has a family business, like, it's a nightmare. It's totally a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother.
It's a whole nother, that's a whole nother thing that I actually do, like, meet with people and discuss with them about family businesses, because they can be horrible. So it didn't really work well because we were newer generation. Our parents were older generation. We would try to do all these things like to promote business. They didn't really like this whole internet thing. They were like, what are you talking about? A web page? What are we doing with that? So it was like a bunch of, oh my God, it was so much of a headache. It was so bad. I think, so my brother actually was like, I can't take this. I'm going to do something else. So he went away for about 5 years. And then in that time, like 2010, I really wasn't learning the business that much.
Yeah.
2010, my mom died.
Oh.
And so I had opened up an additional store. When she died, I started working both locations. And that's really when I started kind of growing up. And that was like the first tragedy situation. 2 months after that, the restaurant that I had just opened up, it had a fire. So that was the first fire that I experienced. And so, going through those struggles, you're just like, you're learning. And then I think the next year, our pit master, my cousin, he passed away.
Oh.
So it was like, oh my God. And then when that happened, my brother was like, hey, he saw some things that we were doing and learning. Through my mom's death, my dad was more like, hey, he let go. He was just like, I can't do this anymore. He kind of just pulled away. And that's actually when I started to really learn the business and get involved. And then I started doing a lot of new things that started changing the business. I found out how bad our books were. Like, I didn't know we were losing a little over $8,000 a month.
Wow.
I had no idea because my mom kept such tight restraint on the books. She didn't want us, as a mom, to understand how bad things were.
Wow.
So I never knew. I had never had any idea until she passed, and I started looking at the books. I'm going, oh my, how are we open? Like, how are we even in business? And so we started to change the game, and I'll tell you what changed everything for us. I thought, okay, the area where we were in, the restaurant area was terrible. And so I was like, maybe we should cater. We need to do like more catering, right? So we were doing some catering, but not a lot. So I actually was like, okay, I'm just going to get my hustle on, So we didn't have any money. So I remember taking $50 out of the cash register. And I was like, I'm going to just make a coupon and I'm just going to walk every office building in 2 miles and just meet as many people as I can.
Yes.
So I started doing that, hit every place. And I will never forget, there was this older white lady that took the flyer that I had, and she took it. She said, hey, baby, how you doing? I was like, oh, how are you doing? She's like, Smokey John's Barbecue. I was like, yeah. She took the coupon flyer that I had, and she smelled it. It doesn't smell like anything. And I was like, it's a coupon. So I was like, it's a coupon. She's like, yeah, but it would be cool if it smelled like something. And I was like, oh my God. So I took another $50 out of the cash register and I went and got like bright orange flyers of this coupon made up, and I put them in the smoker and I smoked the flyers overnight. So the next day I took those flyers out of the smoker. I went through the whole area that I had walked, like all around Mockingbird, I walked every building, like for the whole week. The first day I did it, I was like, I'm going to go about 9:30 because the first part of the day, nobody's really working. They're thinking about what they're going to eat for lunch. That's my thought. That was my thought. So I hit all these office buildings. That's how I can get back to the restaurant to be able to run the lunch run. About 11:05, people started coming in with these orange flyers. And that's how our business recovered. Like that's, so we started coming back, and then I started going, okay, people are coming here to eat at the restaurant because of this. So let me go downtown to all of these big law firms and all. I'm going to do the same thing and see if they'll cater. And then the phones start ringing. And it started going so crazy. My brother started seeing it. He was like, dude, okay. I was like, I need help because I was the delivery driver, the sales guy, and the restaurant manager all at the same time. And so that turning point, it just took off. And so Juan, my brother, came back and we started rocking and rolling, doing some of the stupid things that we came up with. And 2013, my dad was like, you know what, y'all, I'm going to just give y'all the business. Y'all take it. So I think we bought it for like $1,000, you know, just to buy the business from.
Yeah.
We took it over in 2013. From 2013 to 2017, we tripled the gross sales of the business.
Wow.
And my dad was like, okay, y'all are crazy. This is really crazy. And then I started doing TV shows in 2013. And the first show I ever did for Destination America, I ended up winning it. And so, like, once you do that, then they start calling you. So I did Guys Grocery Games. I did Cooking Channel with Valerie Bertinelli, and just started doing all of these shows. My brother and sister and I, we did a whole show together and we won. And so I've like won 4 national shows. And so from there, it just kind of snowballed, but it all started from smoking flyers in a pit.
I love that aha. Like, this is like goosebump stuff.
Yes.
Like, I love that aha moment where you're, you know, you could have been like crazy lady. Like, why? It's not scratch and sniff. It's a coupon, right?
Right.
But you were like, whoa, wait a minute. And by just taking that little moment of this could change everything. And you know what? I love the grit, like the hustle, like you didn't do, we did a big, you know, spend thousands of dollars on a giant ad campaign. Like, you went boots to the ground and walked it and did what you had to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible.
It's all I had.
Yeah.
And there's magic in the idea that all of these people see you face to face and then they see you serving lunch or sitting there.
Yep.
Like, that's what people want to get behind. They don't want to get behind someone who's like holding a tax sign or whatever. And, you know, they want to see you and the story and support you. I think that's...
It's so funny that you say that. That's absolutely what happened. Because people will be like, you're the guy that brought the flyer.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, you own the place? I was like, yeah, well, you know, I just...
Welcome to small business.
Yeah, that's a street team. You know?
Yeah. That's smart, though, because maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that you started so young. You saw all the work that your parents put into it, that it was almost like, well, I've got to make it work.
Oh,
Make
absolutely.
it work.
Oh, that's and you were talking about the why, the how. And so for me, my why has always been to fulfill my dad's dream and legacy. So his goal always was to get the name Smokey John to be like a national name. He wanted multiple stores all across the country. That was his thought. And he actually he was like, he wanted to maybe sell the concept. He hoped that like maybe a Brinker or somebody would buy it, because that would like show that his success, that he created that brand. Yeah. And so right before he passed, it was probably about an hour before he passed, I was like, Pop, we're gonna do it. We're gonna push this all across. We're gonna keep your legacy rolling, you know. And so and he just nodded, like, you know, right before he passed away. He's like, you know, and my brother and I, it's like our why is, it's greater than us. And I think everything you do has to be greater than you, you know. And when it's greater than you, you're always gonna have energy for it. Yeah. Because sometimes I think that's the struggle with entrepreneurs. It's like, if your why is not big enough, then I think it'll consume you. Yeah. Like the energy that it takes to do this will just drain out. But if your why is bigger than you can't stop.
Yeah. Well, even just like your position, and I want to, because there was a second fire, right? Like you've had. Yes. Okay. So before we get there, like, to me, I think entrepreneurship is, you know, obviously a marathon. It's not about when you get, or it's not if you're going to get knocked down. It's when you get knocked down. What are you going to do? Yeah. To a lot of people, looking at books and saying we're losing $8,000 a month right now is crippling enough to walk away, right? Like, I don't want to do this. Like, we are in a massive valley right now. I got a hill to climb. I don't know if it's worth it. And to your point, it's like, all right, dig deep, because they're coming. Like, it is a roller coaster and it's coming, and what are you going to do? So I love that you've been knocked down. I don't love that you've been knocked down. Right. But that you've been knocked down, but it's like, it's not I'm staying. It's a matter of getting back up. So can you talk about like the next things you've had? I mean, you talk about obstacles you've overcome. There's quite a few. Oh, God. Yeah, tell that. I mean. That fire, that 2017 was like, when you talk about
the wind being knocked out of your sail.
Yeah.
Like, so we were on a record-breaking year. Like, we were like 20% above the year before. So my brother and I, we were like, Juan were like, oh yeah, we are killing it. We're killing it. We're like killing it. We haven't even gone into the fourth quarter. Like, fourth quarter is restaurant business. Like, that's Thanksgiving, Christmas. People are pouring money. You know?
Yeah.
So we're like, oh yeah, and the State Fair of Texas. So we're the second largest turkey leg vendor for the State Fair of Texas. So we're like psyched, we're hyped, you know. So I'm off that day, and my brother he left to go do an event. So he calls me and he's like, hey, you know, I'm headed here to do an event. I was like, okay, cool. I said, you know, I'm actually getting ready to go by the restaurant. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, just check on to make sure everything is right. I said, okay, cool. So I hang up. I'm literally driving that way. He calls me right back. I see his number. I say, hey, what's up, bro? He's like, hey, yeah, when you get there, check on them at the restaurant. They're telling me that it's on fire. He's like, I just left. I was like, oh, I'm on my way. I'll be there just a minute. So I get on Mockingbird, and Mockingbird's blocked. I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, this is not just a small fire. So I get up. Finally, they let me to the entrance. Fire marshal, chief, all these guys, everybody's out here. It's like 3 or 4 trucks, which, you know, it's like 3 alarm fire. That's never a good thing, you know. So I get up there, and the guy's like, oh man, this thing is burned up, man. It's like, oh man, whoever had this, they lost everything. And I'm like, yeah, bro, that's me. So he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. So I walk over there, and my team's like crying. They're like crying. And I'm like, yeah, guys, it's gonna be all right, guys. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be all right. And so they look over, and they're like, they look at me and go, you know what? Like, payday was coming up, and they were like, we don't want our checks. You just keep it. Because if we want to do whatever we can to just help, because this is terrible. And I'm like, oh my God, like, that's my God. And I was like, I was moved by that more than anything. I was like, oh my God, y'all are willing to do that. I was like, no, you're going to get the checks. You're good. Don't worry. And so I just watched this fire. It has like destroyed everything, you know. So in that moment, you're almost numb. It's like, it's off. My mom's passed, my dad's passed, and that feeling that you have when you get that news or when you see the transition, that emptiness is like real. And I felt that again. I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna do? And so you have to start thinking about, like, what's next, you know? And through that fire, I learned so many things. And so now I actually help people who experience fires, you know, because there's so many things. Like, so there was a clause in our insurance that negated our policy. So we were only getting $53,000, and it was the total loss. And we were like, oh my God. And so, we're really big on our faith, because so our mission is to nourish the community through the joy of food, strength of faith, and the spirit of family. So we break it down to food, faith, family is what we're about. Really about our faith is really big for us. So the whole time we were a little concerned, like, oh my God, what are we, you know, like, but we believe like God's got something for us. So our landlord, he's like, hey, we have an assurance adjuster, but maybe you need one. So this guy, get this guy from him, and this guy, when I tell you that God used him, so we got back way more than what they are, because the insurance company, you're not gonna get anything.
Yeah.
But by the end, when it was all done, I have a copy of the check just as a testimony. That's because one of my end game is to be able to be a motivational speaker for businesses and people who have gone through hard times and hardships, to show you that your faith is again really what you need. Because when you lose that, I mean, you don't have anything else, right? And so that faith, like, we had to figure out, we had to make a choice. Are we going to stay? Are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to move? And so my brother and I made the decisions, like, we're going to stay here. We're going to keep it going. we're gonna, and this, I think, was the biggest pivotal moment was, one thing about us that we believe with our faith is when you lose is the best time to give, right? Like, we feel like when you lose, that's when you give, right? And so, you know, people were like, we want to help, we want to come paint, we want to bring furniture, like, what can we do? What can we do? And so we were like, guys, the state fair. So the fire happened 2 weeks before the fair opened.
Oh my gosh.
So the crazy thing was we were already ahead of schedule on our product, on pushing product. So we were good, right? But we needed a place to be able to cook during the fair. But we knew the fair was coming. So what we did was created this thing called SJ It Forward. Instead of pay it forward, SJ It Forward, right? So we said, when you come to the fair, if you buy a turkey leg, then buy a second one for some random customer in the crowd. Like, that's how you help us. Like, don't worry about giving money. Like, give money by buying product at the fair. So you would see these people at the fair buying two turkey legs. They take one and just give it to a random stranger. They would buy a fried Reese's and they would give it to a random kid that was walking around. Hey, this is for you. And then we gave bracelets that said SJ It Forward. And that ramped up the sales for the fair. And so that helped us tremendously. And that's how we overcame. That was a big component of what changed for us, because it just random people started finding out about how to give. And it was so cool just to see people, like, you would just watch the fair. People would just go, this light up. Oh, this is like, why are you doing this? Why are you giving? Why are you, like, and kids, you know, and it's like, that was happening all over the fair. And that was the coolest part. And we were able to recover and able to come back and bounce back stronger.
I'm like,
I know.
I'm in awe of that, because there's just, I'm like, to be honest, I'm just speechless.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things too. I know. Well, and it's like, I have a friend who's had a lot of loss in her life, and she'll talk about, like, it's not about who am I. You know, a lot of people get stuck when bad things happen to them. You can get stuck in that place of, well, why would this happen to me? And why? And her whole philosophy is, who am I not to have bad stuff happen to me? You know what I mean? Like, for her, it's the loss of, unfortunately, loved ones, but it's like the same thing in business. Like, you could have sat there and been like, oh, over, but I love that you turned it and said, help others through helping us. Like, what was that time like too, where you were rebuilding a building? Like, did you just have to shut down and hope for a comeback?
Well, so we shut down, and this is another faith thing, right? So it's like, and just who you're connected to makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
So Kristen from 10KSB was like, hey, we have this kitchen in the building that no one's using. Do you guys want to use that? And I was like, Kristen, are you serious? So because of her, we were able to keep cooking. Like, so this is what we ended up doing. Like, we kept catering during this time. I started out the first 2 weeks, my brother and I, we were cooking from our houses, just trying to keep up with we had an event on the books for Guy Fieri for $30,000. That was 4 weeks after the fire. They had no idea. We had nothing. We had no building. We had nothing. And so this random guy that I met, he happened to have a smoker that he wasn't using in his facility. So he was in Lakewood with this smoker. First and 10 had this kitchen. So we were cooking vegetables in one place, meat in one place. We pulled them together, and then we would do the deliveries. And we did that for 16 months.
16?
16 months, because the landlord had to do the roof first. And he was like dragging. And so we didn't even start construction until 8 months after the fire.
Oh my God.
So we just hustled. And during that time, you know, Kristen was a wonder. Like, oh my God, like a godsend, right? So we did the cake, we did the vegetables, we were cooking peach cobbler's. Bill J. Priest smelled like yams and peach cobbler, and
people really loved it.
Oh, they loved it, and they kept trying to buy plates. So we were like, no, we're just doing catering, you know.
They're like, where's the lunch line?
Oh my God, they were like, oh my God, you know. So So that was rocking, and we were going, and then during that time, like again, we were like, we gotta keep our name out here. We gotta keep our name out here. So we started going back to the restaurant while it was all jacked up, and we started giving away stuffed baked potatoes. Like we would tell people we're gonna be there, at like 12 o'clock for the first 50 people. We're gonna give away 50 baked potatoes. Y'all come get them. So, and they would come get them, and people would line up, or we would do sandwiches somewhere and just give them away, just to keep our name out there while we were shut down, so that when we came back, people would know that we're coming back. So it was nuts. I mean, it was like that time, and this is what's really crazy. That whole time, let me step back. One thing I always believe is, like trauma, like tragedy sets you up for opportunity. Tragedy to me always sets you up for opportunity if you take that mindset. Now, you can take tragedy and just let it tear you apart, because it will do that too. Or you can just put a spin on it, right? So we felt like, okay, this is the time to build our brand. People were finding out we had a fire. People who didn't know us for years, like we were on, WFA and Dallas Morning News, and it was just, so it's like, okay, use it. Let's just use the energy. I mean, what else are we gonna do, And so we did that, and turned it into promoting the brand and promoting the business. Well, when COVID hit, we were like, back in the fire. We're back in the fire. And we were like, my brother and I were like, hey, this time we got a building. We're good. And so, same thing. When COVID hit, we were like, okay, we know where our market is. They're at home. So what we did was jumped on social media. We started getting out there. We started telling everybody, it's like, okay, look, this is the deal. If you order at least $40 worth of food, we will deliver it to your house. And so my brother and I, we would do some of the deliveries ourselves and just show up to people's doorstep. Hey, they were like, what are y'all doing here? It's like, hey, man, we're going to say hello to y'all. You ordered. We want to thank you. So we were delivering every day. We had so Frisco was Friday. And so all the orders that we could get from Frisco, we would take them, and they would put their order the day before, and we would deliver them the next day. And so we had DeSoto, Arlington, East Dallas, every day had a delivery. And so that's how we made it through COVID, because no one was coming in the building, because no one knew that. For a while, it's like no one knew if you can even go to eat somewhere, And so we were like, hey, man, it's fire time. Let's go. So we took that same hustle, and that sustained us until everything changed, and the PPP, of course, and all that other stuff. But and then what the thing was all of that actually showed us where our market was too. Like, where were we getting the most calls? And so we use that as an opportunity to figure out where we're going to pick the next store. So now we're using that right now because we're about to start expanding, and we know where our audience is now.
Okay, selfishly, is Frisco on that list?
Frisco is at the top.
All right.
So between Frisco and Oak Cliff, those are the two areas we're trying to figure out which is first.
All right, good to know.
Yeah.
I love that you have the faith aspect of it, and just like keeping it rolling. We had a tough year last year, and there was a lot of things that I was like, I need something on my door. And when my door shuts in my office, it says failure is fertilizer. And it's all these moments of just being
Courtney,
mad, and you're like, slam the door, and you sit down, you look at it, you're like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just got to pick it back up and keep going.
Yeah.
And it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I always say to when people are like, oh, I'm going to start a business. And I'm like, well, that's great. Like, what are you going to do? Because I never want to deter anybody, but it is like being on a roller coaster without a seatbelt.
Yes.
You're constantly like, oh my God, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? And then it's like, fine. And you're like, okay, it's all good.
Yes.
And just hearing that story, like there are way too many opportunities to give up.
Yeah.
But instead you were like, no, we're just going to keep going.
No.
But that's loving what you do too.
Yeah.
Now you're cooking. These are your recipes, right?
Right. Yeah, my dad, my mom, my grandmother, this is their history.
Yes.
For us to be able to keep offering that history to the community is like, that's rewarding for us.
Yeah.
We keep them living. they keep living on through those recipes, through those items, through those cobblers. Like, they keep living.
Yeah.
And so that's legacy for us. That's legacy. And for us, I mean, like, if you could keep, like, I don't know if you guys have kids, but how else could your kids honor you more than to keep you alive when you're gone? Like, and to have that forefront.
Yeah.
So for us, it's like, if you have a child, it's like, hey, Mama, I'm going to do this podcast.
Yeah.
I watched you go through it. I watched you do it. I watched you make it grow. I watched you help other businesses. I watched you change other people who had no viewers to viewers. I watched you do that. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to keep that impact going.
Yeah.
Like, how rewarding is that?
I think we need Kleenex and whatever brand. I know, I'm like getting verklempt over here. I know, I'm like keep like tearing up over here.
I know, I'm doing the same thing, and I'm like, where's the camera?
I know, sorry, I didn't know we needed the Kleenex. But how did the A&E deal come into play?
It's crazy. Like, this stuff just keeps happening. It's like, it's all a divine thing, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if so they had this idea to do this show at the State Fair of Texas, right? So people have been trying to do this for a long time. Mm-hmm. So A&E was like, hey, we want to do the State Fair of Texas. That is the largest fair in the world, right? So we want to do this. So the fair, they call the fair, and they're like, hey, who would you guys recommend? And so they had auditions. So we started doing the auditions. And in the auditions, they were like, okay, let's get these guys.
They're naturals.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something here.
Yeah.
They were like, okay.
Pretty, right?
Jeez Louise. Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
I just hope my brother's not watching this, because he's just going to clip this and just use that over and over again.
You're going to become like, it's
over. Erin, it's over.
Right.
I'm just telling you. So they saw it. They chose us. I think they had 7 or 8 different families. They started taping, and of course, it's the year after COVID. It's the first fair after COVID that they're taping. So now, and we have 6 locations we run at the State Fair of Texas. So now we are running the fair, as well as a camera crew of like 11 people following you everywhere you go, like everywhere.
No pressure.
This is not a piece of cake, In
the midst of like trying to find people to show up for work.
Oh my God, you know that. You know that.
Go down that road.
Well,
the restaurant industry.
Well, I'm thinking, they're following you around because you're going to every location.
Yes.
To service these customers.
Yes.
Oh God.
It's just, and the labor market after I don't know
super
what
easy.
happened.
Yeah.
So we hire about 125 people just to do the fair, right? And we have 18 different managers as well too. So it's like the fair is a huge thing for us, and we had never, we've never been on a full season show. Like, we've never, this is the first. I've done one-offs here and there, but the full season. So I just had no idea what that meant, and that commitment. It's intense. They are there all the time. And you really have to remember that you have a microphone that's attached to you all day long. But it was wonderful. We made great connections with the producers, and it's been absolutely wonderful. That experience was, for us, a game changer, because it kind of took us from these local barbecue guys to like, now people are flying from Michigan and like, we're coming to try your barbecue. We saw you on A&E. One of the things I'm learning now, the show is a very popular show to watch on the airplane. That's what we were finding out. So people are watching the episodes on the plane, and so you get to Dallas, we're down the street from Love Field, so they come straight and they walk up. That's you. I just saw the show. Oh my God, you're here. You're pretty. Oh my God. I was like, I'm not, but he says that, you know.
It kind of starts going to your head after a while.
He brought it up this time, so I just saying.
That's how they do it. And it's like, and they just laugh, you know. So anyway, but it's been a game changer.
So I'm interested. When did you actually go through the program then? Because it seems like you got all the lessons on your own.
Yes.
Yeah, numbers, because everybody's always the number one. It seems like you got hit with that way before 10 KSB.
No, so this is crazy. 2016 is when I went. I went through the program 2016
Before the fire.
Before the fire. So one of our customers had gone. She was like an cohort 1 or 2.
Okay.
In Dallas, and she was like, "There's this program you need to go through." Because she came in and she had been like from when there was no one there. To like that day she came in, like the line was wrapped around, right? And she's like, okay, you need help. You need help because y'all are growing. And it's like, you need to get in this class. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is. And so that's why I took the class in the first place. So I started taking the lessons from the class and we started really pushing the business. That next year is when we had the fire. And so the connections with Goldman were phenomenal because Paul Burt, you know Paul Burt. So Paul helped me with the projections. We ended up getting since the insurance policy didn't give us anything, we ended up getting a $300,000 loan from Frost Bank without collateral.
Wow.
And the numbers that Paul helped me get with the projections was like to seal the deal.
Wow.
Yeah, so he helped me with all of that, with the projections.
It just goes to show Paul was with me too. And then he was the one when we started going through stuff and I was like, I didn't believe we had a real business. And he would pull me aside. He was like, you actually do.
Yeah.
And like, this is like a good thing. You're not like, this isn't a startup.
Right.
This is actually a business. And so it took a lot of coaching from him to set me straight. But he's wonderful. And they're such advocates of us. Even years after the program.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. Like, that's what I thought the bread and butter was the program, and that's only the beginning.
Yes.
Oh, it's totally on the beginning. I mean, you know, again, just the connecting with the alumni, you know, and just the opportunities. I mean, the things, I've done so much with Goldman. Just even, they did a private coaching class with me in New York with their executives.
Wow. So,
I mean, I've catered for DC and I've catered in New York for, I think their top investors. Like I've done like all this crazy, like all through because of Goldman. Like it, like literally, because they really want to say they're going to get behind their small businesses. They get behind their small businesses. You know, and it doesn't hurt that people appreciate the story that we have, and so it's like they want to help, and it's like that's why anybody says anything Goldman related, I'll be there. I got you, no worries. Because I'm all in.
Yeah, they're huge advocates. And resources, and like, even we work with other graduates. We get to interview other graduates. Like I don't know. I feel very lucky and fortunate that I've even was a tad but pushed that direction because I didn't believe I would even be accepted.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. It's a family for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Obviously we heard new restaurants, doesn't sound like you guys are sitting back and just enjoying your hard work.
No. So the big goal is we want to get up to have 5 locations. My dad's dream was to sell the business, right? So if we get it up to that point when we get it up to 5 stores and we make the decision if we want to sell it, that'll be great. You know, just to even get there is like, okay, now we may want to continue it and keep it going. We're working with some pretty strong people in the industry at this point that are love our concept, love our ideas. So they're kind of really behind us. The biggest thing right now is last year we were in a competition with HEB, Quest for Texas Best, where they selected us as, I think we were on 3rd place.
Wow.
Which got us on the shelves of HEB. And so now what we're really focusing on is we're ramping up our branded items division. And so now we're selling our barbecue rub in HEB. And so that's what's been funny is we didn't understand how much Frisco and Plano really want our concept there. Like, so we're sampling our rub in HEB and like in Frisco and Plano. And so these the customers there are like, where are y'all? Where's your restaurant? Where? Oh my God, because we're sampling food with the rub on it, and they're like, oh my God, we gotta. Where are you? Are you close? It's like, okay, you know what? We like.
Yeah, you're like, we're south of 121.
Sorry. We are, you know? But it's like Frisco's like wanting some, like, I mean, you've got a couple of barbecue places there, but what we do is a little bit differently.
We
you know,
need
it's
you.
like, you know, it's country cooking we do as well too. So, and what we're finding out, we're not like the boutique barbecue places. You know, they kind of like focus on these premium meats, and then the sides are like, okay, right, we have equally good sides and tasty meats. So that's like one of our slogans is good meats, good sides, good vibes. And that's kind of what we're all about. We're trying to bring that, to that area.
Is that on a t-shirt?
Oh, totally. It's already been trademarked. Right? Oh, yeah, we got it. Oh, yeah.
Well, and I kept thinking, I was like, oh, I know at the end I'm going to ask him, when does the barbecue sauce hit the shelf? But you beat me to the punch.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so, like, product-based business is a great way to drive in visibility.
Okay, so listen, I got to tell you how the sauce and rub finished up, right?
What are you telling?
So we get this call that there's this opportunity for that Todd Graves of Raising Cane's. So he's doing this thing to help businesses overcome after COVID. So my brother and I were like, we do an audition tape. So we go ahead and do it. So they select us. And so we do his first show, Restaurant Recovery. So he did it with Snoop Dogg and Nelly and all these guys.
Bye.
And yeah, it's so crazy. So Todd came to Dallas. They renovated the restaurant for us, and so he actually created the label. His designers adjusted the label for the barbecue sauce and rub, and so it made us shelf ready. And so once we got shelf ready, then we entered the competition last year for HEB. But that's how it all, like, Todd was like an intricate part of why we have the sauce and rub finished. And it's like, and so. And, you know, Raising Cane's, everybody knows Raising Cane's. But what they don't know is Todd Graves is probably the nicest human in America. Like, he gives millions of dollars to, you know, organizations, helping small businesses. I think out of his pocket, I think he spent somewhere around $2 million. He pretty much funded the show himself. And I think he has a new show on A&E now. But he, like, really came in. I still talk to him now. He just flew in about a month ago from the national championship for the football game, and they like put an order in. It's like, I'm just coming to the Love Frill real quick. And so I guess he's coming in real quick. He had somebody pick up the food, drop it off to the plane. He flew straight on back to New Orleans. Like he is like, I still talk to him. And he's like, you got any questions? Let me know. So it's like, we've been blessed with like just amazing people that really believe in small businesses, and it's like that's really what it's all about. Like how I'm sitting here with you and Erin, like before we start taping, and Erin's like dropping game on YouTube and, you know, Facebook Reels, and it's like I feel like I need to leave a check just to say no. But it's like that's what it's about. Yeah, when we, you know, it's like iron sharpens iron.
Yeah,
like, when we get together, when we pour over each other, it's like that's how we make sure we make it. That's how we make sure that we overcome whatever we deal with, because there's somebody that's been where you are. Yeah. You know, and I'm watching what you guys, y'all are super inspiring me. Like, I want to stop and take pictures because of what you guys have created, right? And this is just, it's an honor just to like sit with you guys and sit with, you know, business owners that believe in the same values of giving back and pouring into other companies. So we've been a recipient, and it's like we try to also pour that out as well.
I love it. Before we, sorry, what were
I
you
have,
say?
sorry, I have one more question because I think it's really important because I don't think a lot of people know that you have a camera set up at the entrance of the restaurant. And when specific music is played, you often capture people dancing, walking into the restaurant.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that and how you're going to eventually turn that into some sort of content?
You know, and so it's our, you know, to be honest, it's our security camera.
Yeah.
But it has captured some of the best moves of our time. Like some of the greatest skills of dancing that I've ever seen, you know, from 8 to 80. I mean, we see all kind of people that are breaking it all the way down just because we play a lot of, you know, Michael Jackson, some old school, some new school stuff, Rihanna. We play a little bit of everything because music just goes with food, you know.
Yeah.
And you walk in and smell that smoke and you hear some music. Then some people.
Even just
See,
let's go.
Courtney, I see what's happening to you. You see, and like it happens all the time, and we love it. I mean, we want to see people like vibing. As soon as they come in.
Is it El Arroyo? They have like their sign and they repeat stuff. Like it would be fun to see you put like Christmas ornaments together of people like in their dance moves, and then you're off.
See. Just magic is if I'm around y'all, magic is happening. I just feel better.
We're gonna get your business. I know it's a little low right now. We're gonna help you out. Don't worry, we got you. We got you.
I was telling Erin in the very beginning, I was like, it's kind of a dream if we can eventually turn this into like we get to be employees of some of y'all.
Oh wow!
Like I would be on the line,
like undercover.
You know, My husband would beg to differ that I would be of any service because I kind of get a little ADD.
Yeah.
But like I think it'd be so cool. Like I can work the cash rack, or like give us a tour. I would be.
I'm a great server. I'm just gonna say, back in the day,
I believe it.
I multitask. Like if I have 3 tables that need 3 different things, I put them all on one tray and go. I know it's.
She's earning her Pac-Man money.
Yeah.
I
got you.
Hired.
I'll have water and tea in each hand and be like,
Did you see the scam? Yeah. Did you watch it?
I just threw in the shimmy you got. You're like actually doing well.
Yeah, I'm actually working.
I was here live. I was live for this. Guys, I was here live for what just happened. I want you to know that.
Well, I wish we had another hour. For which to talk about. Real quick before we wrap up, do you want to pitch your podcast or just tell everybody about your podcast?
Oh yeah, so we just started our podcast, the Pretty Funny Podcast. We're taping episode 5 in a couple of weeks. We've had some really cool guests. So we're excited. We're just talking with business owners. We've been talking to media lately. We got some restaurant tours and some different chefs that are coming up pretty soon. And we're just talking to people about themselves and what are they doing to, be successful? Like how have they become successful? So.
Yeah. Well, we have Pretty in the house, but we haven't met Funny yet. Wow. So, just saying.
You have to meet Funny.
We haven't met the personality of the group yet. Personality.
He's the real magic behind the team. Yeah.
All right. Well, Brent, thank you so much. We'll have a website a link to your website, everything, so people can learn more about you. Thank you for doing this. This has been inspiring, awesome, everything. So
thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.
All right.